My name is Sean McCormick. I'm the CEO and founder of SingleOps, and my talk today is called Use the Force, How Technology Can Be a Force Multiplier for Your Business. So before we get started, two things about me. One, I'm very passionate about the green industry, and two, I'm a little bit of a tech nerd. So as you can see with the theme of my presentation today, we're gonna embrace that tech nerd side, but I figure where else better to do it than the Lawn and Landscape Tech Conference. So what we're gonna cover today, five core topics. So first, the force multiplication effect of new technologies. What that means, basically how you can get more out of your team with less today, and how leading companies are doing this in the space. So how they're investing in technology, where they're investing, et cetera. And then I'm gonna identify 5 key areas in your business today where you can implement this software, and also maximize and measure ROI, which is very important when you're looking at software investments. And we're gonna kind of go throughout that as a theme with the presentation. Cool, so a little bit of background on me. I've got over a decade of experience in the green industry and in technology, and I have hands-on experience with hundreds of green industry businesses, just like you, implementing software. And I've done that with my company called SingleOps. And so we've become a leader in the green industry business management software space. Our customers have been placed on the Inc. 5000 fastest growing companies list. We are based out of Atlanta, and recently we were recognized as one of the best places to work in Atlanta and a pace setter, one of the fastest growing companies in Atlanta. So that's why we're talking about software today. You know, I know it the best. There's a lot of other cool tech investments you can make here, but we're also talking about software today because it offers the highest potential ROI for your business. So when you compare that to an equipment purchase, that equipment purchase, you gotta replace old equipment, so that's a loss, there's depreciation. Also, if you're buying new equipment for a new crew, you gotta hire more people to run that equipment. That's not a force multiplier. A force multiplier is when you're able to put something in a place with your team today and get more out of them currently. And so we're gonna focus on a handful of those, but we're also going to talk about just the importance of this and how it's really correlated with important things like growth and profits. So we're able to pull data to see that the average green industry business only has 4% annual growth. But they're also only adopting software, cloud software, with about 10% of their business. When you compare that to the top 150 companies in the industry, they've got about a 50% cloud software adoption, and they're also seeing higher growth, on average 10% last year. Then when we look at our own data, of course, if a company is using our software, SingleOps, they've have 100% adoption across their business, and they're seeing 15% annual growth on average. So 6 data points does not prove a correlation, but we can look at other data as well on the profit side. So again, the green industry average is less than 6% net profits. And on average, a company in the green industry is spending less than 1% of their total revenue on IT. So with our customer base, they're spending more than 1%, not a whole lot. And trust me, SingleOps doesn't cost that whole percent. They're typically investing in other software and IT as well. But they're seeing on average much higher net profit, 12%. And then you compare that to the largest company in the industry. You can get this info from their public filings. Last year they saw 19% net profits, and they're investing over 1% of their total revenue, which obviously is quite a lot, in IT. So the data kind of speaks for itself. These investments can certainly pay off with very important metrics with your business. However, and this might not be the first time y'all have heard this today, but the green industry severely invests in software. So you compare that to the average small business doing less than 50 million in revenue, it's about 6.9% of their total revenue. We see the most successful companies in the industry investing 2% or more. Brightview, again, is investing over 1%. But the green industry average is just 0.1% investing in modern cloud software. But the great thing is, even though that's a small fraction, it is improving year over year, and we're seeing that. And we're seeing companies grow on what we call this tech adoption curve. And as you can see, it's a very scientific curve here that we've developed. But we like to kind of group companies in these 4 different stages. So the first stage, pen and paper forms, not really adopting this type of software throughout their business, or maybe you have adopted it, but you've got still pen and paper forms somewhere else. I'm assuming as you guys are all here, you're investing in some software, or you have the intention to do so, and so you're gonna grow up to that, second stage. That's people using things like QuickBooks with Excel spreadsheets, plus Google Calendar, these kind of multiple disconnected apps, which is great. It's easy to get started, not very expensive, but it doesn't allow you to have that what we call a system of record, that single source of truth for your entire business. So QuickBooks is a great system of truth for the accounting side, for financials, but it is very poor on the customer side, for CRM or for field service side, getting that information from the field. So a good business management software solution, like there's many here today, is that system of record. So that gets you to stage 3. And so if you're already at that stage, congratulations, because 80% of the industry is not there yet. But you guys are here, you want to grow and you want to invest more in these types of things. And so we want to get you to what we call stage 4. And that's really where you've got full integration and automation across your entire workforce. And I'm going to show you a couple ways that you can kind of get there today. And I'm going to focus on 5 key areas of your business where you can look at different software investments. And I'm going to highlight one specific one in each area, and we're going to look at the ROI of each. Looking at that ROI is important because it's a tool that you can use with your team as an owner or a manager, or also a tool that you can give to your team and encourage them to present that to you when they're wanting you to make a purchase or an investment for the business, especially on the software side. So the first area of your business we're going to focus is on customer service. This is critically important, but we see there's 2 main types of customer service you provide your customer. We break that into push and pull. Push is when you're sending information to your customer, and there's a lot of ways software can help you send more information, but do that with taking less time for your team. One example is automated email and text follow-ups. There's a lot of off-the-shelf apps you can buy to do this. There's a lot of business management software that has this as a feature. But by sending an automated email or text after you present an estimate to a customer, you're guaranteed to increase your close rates. Same thing with an automated follow-up after an invoice. You'll increase your cash flow. And you'll improve customer satisfaction because the data shows like 9 out of 10 customers, they want those text updates today. That wasn't the case a few years ago, but they want those text updates, and those text updates get read. 95% of texts are read within the first 3 minutes of being sent. So for the most part, you don't have to worry about the customer getting that information. They want it, and they're going to read it. And it's going to help you do more time, communicate more with your customer by spending less time with your team doing it. And when the customer gets that information right, they're not calling your office asking, oh, when's that work scheduled, or did you complete it, or whatever. They already know that. So tremendous time savings on the automated email text follow-ups. The other dynamic of customer support is pull. So that's when the customer's coming to you for information. And so there's a lot of software mechanisms that can help you improve the customer experience, and customers are also starting to really ask and expect these things, like a customer portal, going online, being able to review, pay invoices, estimates, request service, and also too, doing that on a mobile app. So almost 70% of customers want to schedule appointments online. So that's a consultation with one of your team members, an estimate, et cetera. They want to be able to schedule that themselves. Also, 88% of customers now expect you to have a customer portal and also a mobile app that they can access it on too. So that's where customers' expectations are going. And these are softwares that you can provide to satisfy that expectation. And we're starting, by the way, with stuff that's not super groundbreaking. And so a lot of these things I'm sure you've heard about. A lot of them you probably might be already using in your business. As if so, awesome. We're going to get some new stuff in just a second. But with this key area, we're going to focus on digital media. And so we're starting here because everyone in this room, I believe, has this technology in their pocket. And you don't have to install anything. You have to do anything right now to take photos and take videos. And you can do that every time you're on a job site. And if you're not currently doing it, literally every time you're on a job site, there's a cost. And we'll get to that ROI of doing it. But taking pictures and videos when you're performing an estimate allows you to give a much better proposal to the customer, which will increase close rates. You can do the same thing by providing that information on the work order, digital work order to the crew, which will reduce job site errors. And this is where our first kind of worksheet where we're going to look at measuring a return on investment. So we're starting with something that's very simple, and it's something that everyone can do today. And after this, ask yourself, every time my crew goes on the job site, are they taking a photo or a video? Every time I do to perform an estimate or a site check. So the costs of this, upfront costs, well, there's no real tech cost. There's some training, so you might have to train your team, especially your crews. 1 day of training, we're going to assume a 5 crews for this company. Annual cost, hey, we're gonna assume that you're using a business management software, so that's the typical user price for this. And then labor costs, you're asking your team to maybe spend 5 minutes per job doing this. So when you add up those costs, they're far less than the value you get from the increased close rate, the additional renewals you'll get by providing that on invoices, and then a revenue from referrals. Now you have this treasure trove of content that you're able to use beyond the things I've mentioned, but with marketing and all sorts of stuff. So these are just ballpark figures from the annual value. It could probably be a lot higher than this, but what you'll see is there's just this tremendous ROI with just doing this, with just having your crews and your team take photos and videos every time you're on a job site. So in year one, you have over 500% return on that investment. The payback period is in 2 months. In just 2 months, you're profitable on this. And then in 5 years, you've got almost 1,000% ROI. So this is the first one that we're gonna look at. What you'll see is it's a huge ROI, but at the end of the day, this is not gonna be game changing for your business, right? Like in 5 years, you're making almost about 200 grand. So it's not game changing, but it's so simple to do, why wouldn't you do it? So that's our first one we're looking at. We're gonna stick on that customer service key topic right now, and we're gonna talk about the other side, the service you provide your customers. So the cruise production in the field. And so, a lot of people are getting their crews on mobile apps, so obviously we really encourage that. And the first thing they typically start with is, giving them their schedule, doing time tracking, et cetera. But we're starting to see more companies embrace mobile apps for other things with their crews. Now, it might seem incredibly scary, and you might not, trust your crews at all to do this, but that first thing we talked about, taking photos and videos, if you trust them to do that, then that means they've got the device, that means they can operate it, and ultimately they're gonna get to this point too. And we see leading companies in the industry turning their crews into sales reps by allowing them to send estimates in the field for enhancements and upsells, et cetera. And also taking payments in the field as well. If you've got that crew there and you've got your customer there, why not get payment at that point in time? It's gonna save you a ton of money and also improve your cash flow. So looking at the ROI on this one, again, that's just much more futuristic. The technology exists today, but absolutely it's definitely gonna be difficult to get that implemented. And so we've got increased upfront costs. You've got a lot more time in training. You've also got to probably purchase devices for your team to do this. There's additional software costs, and then the labor costs are higher too, right? You're asking your team to spend more time doing something outside of working on what they were scheduled. But the annual value still is higher than that cost. So if a company with 5 crews is doing this for a year, on average, they're gonna be able to sell over $100,000 in additional business, new enhancements, all sorts of stuff. And so the payback period is about 5 months. And the ROI is high, and the delta, that what we're looking at here is now increasing. So for this one, you're gonna make over 300 grand by getting your crews to do this. If you have more crews, if you've got a bigger business, that value only increases. So we've looked at ROI on this one. Also something that I should mention, by the way, and I didn't mention on the first one, these are other assumptions down here at the bottom. You could plug in your own values for your company. Gross margin is kind of an average that we're looking at, and IRR, so I want to explain what that is. That's internal rate of return. I won't get too far down the line with that, but basically what it means is for year one, that additional profit that you're making, and that's what we're estimating there. In year two, if you put that back in the business, that generates another 15%. So that's your internal rate of return. So over 5 years, you've created more value with that profit, kind of like time value of money. Of course, you could put it in the stock market and get another rate of return, but we're looking at just kind of putting that back in your business. Regardless, it's gonna have increased value over time. All right, so moving on to key area 2 is speed. Super important for your business. And the data supports that, and this is something that we uncovered when we released our Green Industry Economic Report a few weeks ago. And so we kind of talked about a lot of this data that we have at SingleOps. And so with that, we're able to pull out trends that customers have that are really high performing. And one of the trends that we saw was that 80% of the time, customers will choose the first estimate they receive. So they're not choosing the cheapest most often, they're not choosing the most fancy, they're choosing the first one they get. And that just tells you how critically important speed is in just one part of the business. And it's across the board, you see this data. And so how can you be faster? And how can you use software to allow you to run a faster business? First, it's identifying areas where you might currently be slow. You might be slowing down. And so we've mapped here, there's 13 key steps in your business to go all the way from that first call to requesting an estimate to receiving payment. And it goes from recording that initial call into a system, or maybe on a piece of paper, to sending it to an estimator to do an estimate, to sending the estimate, to selling the work, scheduling the crew performing the work, getting that information back to the office, billing the customer. I'm sure all of you today here are integrating or automating some of these steps. If not, hopefully, if you are all of them, then awesome. Then you're on your way to that stage 4. But think about your business and what areas is there a manual step in between any of those processes? Because any sort of manual step, taking information from a piece of paper and re-entering it into a system, or taking it from one system and putting it into another, any manual step is slowing you down, and it's an opportunity for you to increase the speed of your business and provide what customers want. I mean, they want that expectation has been set for that Amazon Prime same-day delivery expectation. And you can provide that service to your customers now that the cost of technology have gone down so much. And in not doing so, there's an opportunity cost. Opportunity cost being, this is the cost of that time you're spending doing that manual process, whatever it may be in that workflow we showed you, and not doing it on something else for the business. So for missed sales, what about all the estimates that take you longer, that you didn't get that sale because you weren't the first one the customer received? You went back to the office, spent 2 days putting together on a spreadsheet, got to the customer, didn't get the sale because maybe someone else was faster than you. So that's one of the opportunity costs. The other is uncaptured production. So let's talk about a software technology called route optimization. Again, you can buy that off the shelf, or it's also included in a lot of business management software that allows you to provide the most optimal route for your crew. If your crew is scheduled for over 3 jobs a day on average, in 1 week by doing route optimization, they can do 2 more jobs than they would have been able to do otherwise. That's what the data says. Now, a lot of folks, hey, I know my area the best and I'm gonna schedule it because I can understand traffic. That may be true, but if that was the case all the time, then FedEx wouldn't be as large of a company as they are. They'd have a huge staff of people manually scheduling everything. And so this technology now is not just available for FedEx, it's available for you, not even off the shelf, but integrated with products like business management software. Also, an opportunity cost on the office side, so we'll pick on them next. So all time, let's look at chasing down payments. So the time that it takes to collect from your customers is time not spent on other things in your business. And so that's kind of going to be my next tech focus, is what we call modern payments. And so modern payments isn't just credit card acceptance, that's part of it. There's a lot of other parts there beyond, which we'll talk about. But in the green industry, even just credit card acceptance is tremendously low. So over $100 billion is spent in this industry, and less than 10% of that goes on credit cards. And I've seen data that even says less than 6%. For any major industry, that is ridiculously low. And there's a, there's a poor assumption here that the cost of accepting those payments is higher than the value you receive. And there's also some assumption often that the customer doesn't want to pay by credit card, doesn't want to pay by ACH. Maybe they've told you that, but the reality is that 2/3 of all Americans bought from Amazon last year, and they all bought with credit cards and ACH, consumers and commercial businesses alike. So they do want to pay with credit cards and ACH. You just have to make it very, very easy for them to do so. And easy isn't calling them up and giving them your credit card information. Easy is embracing all the modern payment technologies that I list right here, being able to automatically send them an invoice, and then they can make payment on that invoice. Pretty basic. But then also ACH payments, giving them that option as well. And then securely storing their credit card and ACH payment detail, so the next time they buy from you, it's right there with one click. And I want to ask yourself each one of these, are you already doing this? If so, awesome. But if not, we'll look at the ROI of what it could look like to do it. But then also having credit card and ACH integration with prepays. So allowing your customer to pay up front and get a discount, do the same thing with deposits. Automated payments, so for any sort of recurring payments, you can automate those and charge per month. Pre-authorization, so figuring out if the credit card that they gave you actually has enough money, a credit limit to purchases, the design build project or the services you sold them. And then customer financing, and this is a favorite topic of mine. I won't spend too much time on this presentation, but it's something that this industry just does quite a little bit of, especially with big design build projects. So great companies out there like Green Sky can partner with you to give your customers financing. So they're gonna underwrite the customer, they're gonna underwrite the financing, the customer's gonna pay them monthly, and you're gonna receive that entire sale up front to do the work. And so the adoption of that is so low, but in doing it, you're going to increase close rates, and in parts of your business, like design build, that are not recession-proof, it's going to help you whenever that time comes. So I wanna give kind of another comparison here too with my business, so SingleOps. So we're a software as a service business, and you might not think we have too much in common with the green industry business. We love working with them, we have great software that we built for them, but the way we take payment and the way we bill our customers, believe it or not, is actually very similar. So we have the recurring billing, we have one-off charges, we have bills where the payment is due upon completion of service, we have all of that. But do you know how much time my team spends on collections? They don't spend any time on collections, none, because we've embraced all these modern payment technologies. Instead, that team repurposes their time to do what we call customer success. So instead of reaching out to the customer after the invoice is sent, they proactively reach out prior to see, hey, are you happy? If not, what can we do? And if so, great, let's get your feedback. That will proactively help the customer increase you getting paid, the rate you get paid, and increase the rate your customers renew. So it's just kind of a change of a mindset, but you can do that with embracing modern payments. And here's the ROI on this. So this is gonna be a little bit different than the other ones that we had talked about. And that's why I like to present each one, because each one's a little different. This one, as you'll notice, doesn't have the highest ROI, right? It's not one of those triple-digit ROIs we were kind of looking at before. It is profitable in year one. It's actually profitable right away. That payback period is 0 months. And that's because there are no upfront costs to doing this. All the other things we talked about require a ton of training or implementation. If you're using a business management software solution right now today, I mean, this is as easy as clicking a button or filling out a form. Even if you're not, there's many credit card companies and many payments companies, and many of them are here walking around who want to sell you this type of stuff because, again, they're going to make a lot of money, but so are you. And so it's so easy to do. Consumers want it and expect it. And so if you aren't doing it, embracing all those modern payment technologies, you absolutely should. All right, next. So safety is the next key area. Probably not the most fun of the areas we're going to talk about today. And so I guess here comes my most boring slide to help with that. But software could really help on the safety side, especially with compliance and accountability. So one software I'm going to point out are digital forms. So digital forms, you can buy free options off the shelf. You can build them in Google Forms, Wufoo, Panda Form Builder. There's tons of great ways to do this. And in doing so, in digitizing that form, you can enforce company standards, right? So when that crew leaves that job site, if they don't check this box or fill out that field, they can't submit their time. They can't get paid. I mean, that's just one example of enforcing a company standard. But you can also use them for things like OSHA compliance. So for job safety assessment, making sure that your team, anytime they're on a job site, lists any sort of hazards that are there. That's great practice, and also when an accident happens, which it will, that's gonna help you with insurance coverage. And then ANSI standards, so for folks who wanna kind of embrace best practices, we see this a lot on the tree care side. You're able to have a digital form to make sure your team fulfills that. So one example, another is vehicle GPS for safe driving. A lot of the really good GPS providers now have safe driving alerts and crazy driver alerts, so you know who on your team is not being safe on the road and is at risk of having an accident. So a couple ways that technology can help improve safety, but the one I'm gonna focus on, which is again a little different, are cameras. And so dash cams in your vehicles and office cams in your office. I'm gonna ask for my first piece of audience participation now that everyone seems to be kind of finished with their lunch. So raise your hand if you guys are using an office cam today. All right, cool, we've got a good percentage. Raise your hand if you have got a dash cam in every single one of your vehicles, every single one of your trucks today. All right, a much lower percentage. And so the cost of these has been reduced dramatically, and we're gonna see that when we look at the ROI analysis, but the data supports that they can be very, very helpful for your business. So one, they can reduce employee theft. Data says it will reduce it by 22%. And then there's this enormous impact on behavior when you know you're being filmed. And so obviously that's kind of like a little big brothery, but so many studies show that when someone knows that they're being filmed or they're driving a vehicle that's being filmed, they're gonna act safer, they're gonna be more compliant, and they're not gonna waste time and be unproductive. So Let's look at the ROI on this. And again, actually, before I go off this other slide, so the dash cams, I always find it funny. There's so many YouTube videos where you see some crazy driver, and it's provided by a dash cam. And majority of them, if you'll notice, are all from Russia. And so in Russia, in order for you to get insurance coverage for your vehicle, literally, you have to have that dash cam. So that's why they all have them. Literally, anyone who's driving a vehicle in Russia has a dash cam. But I saw one, maybe two hands in this room of people who have a dash cam in each one of their trucks. So the cost is so minimal. I mean, the devices cost like $50 a piece. And the installation, takes a couple minutes. And there are no annual costs. So this isn't related to a software purchase. So unless you want to buy software for it, but otherwise you've got that and it's recording all the time. And so again, these are big estimations, but those cameras will increase that compliance, maybe providing one additional productive hour per week. And they will help reduce theft or accidents, avoidance. So maybe on average, $1,000 a year. So $2,400. Well, there's a huge ROI on this. The cost is so minimal, yet the value is so high. But this is an insurance policy too, because the value here, what if this helps you avoid a $20,000 mistake or accident? What if when that accident does happen, you now have the data and the video behind it so that you can get coverage, so that you can, remediate the problem? So another just piece of technology that would be awesome on that part of your business. The next one that we're going to focus on, so the second to last area of your business that we're going to focus on where technology can help you, your team become a force multiplier is scale. So scaling your business. Super, super important, especially if you want to grow and become more profitable. And a lot of ways that software can do this is on standardization and repeatability. So just by the fact that your team uses a software solution for one part of the business, if that whole part of the team does, you've now standardized that process, which is tremendous for scalability, right? You don't have one estimator using this Excel spreadsheet, another estimator using that Excel spreadsheet for the same type of work. You've standardized it, which makes it more scalable to recruit and hire. So now that next person that you bring into that part of your business knows exactly how to do it and how your company does it. And if you're working with a good, estimating software or business management software solution, they're gonna help train that customer or that new employee. So at SingleOps, when someone signs up for a new user to use a product, we will provide the training on how to use the software. So in turn, we're training your new employee. We take that cost away from you. So just some ways that software can help the standardization and repeatability process for your business. And again, we see that with examples of customers that we have that have grown 50 to 100% annually without adding another person in the back office because they've got these standardized, repeatable processes. The tech focus we're gonna do on this one, believe it or not, we are gonna focus on business management software. So wouldn't be right if I didn't spend at least one of these talking about the type of software that SingleOps is. But the value here is tremendous. And so I guess a show of hands, how many of you guys in the room today are using a business management software solution for your business? All right, a good percentage. How many of you guys that are using it for all the parts of your business that it was designed for? Office, crew, estimators? All right, much fewer. So that's the two components, right? It's, making the software purchase is important, but getting it implemented with your team can be even more important. Because when you do that, you're able to do things like easier upsells and cross-sells on the sales side. Much easier for them to upsell enhancements, make you more profitable. Automated renewals. So it's much faster now. You can save a lot of time when you're doing renewals, automate that process, and repeat purchases too. Of course, you could spend that time elsewhere. We'll talk about that. But then because it's that system of record, you can then mine your data for amazing things. So customer records to optimize marketing efforts. With that data, you now know what email template best upsells your customer or best gets them to do a repeat purchase on that pine char mulch they did last year. But not even that email you now know what time to send it because the data will tell you that perhaps 20 minutes after they get that job completion email is the most optimal time to send them the next one to try to upsell them because they're happy with the service you provided. So all that data is available and a good system is going to allow you to make actionable decisions based on it. And also too, that's fun stuff. To me, I like that. That's maybe a little bit futuristic, but that's where the world's going. And what that does is it allows you to recruit and retain high-performing employees. So obviously you've heard, the best talent wants to work with the best tools. So just by the fact that your company is using this, you're gonna be able to bring on better people. If you've got the option and you're hiring a millennial and they're gonna, company A is gonna have them work on a paper form or an Excel spreadsheet, and company B is gonna get them on a cloud software app that's going to grow and improve as they grow and improve their career, they're gonna choose option B. So it allows you to, recruit and retain. And the ROI here, there's a big difference on this one than the other ones we talked about. This was a lot more expensive to implement with your company. And that's why when I was looking at the show of hands, very few of the people who are actually using it have it fully implemented with their business, because it's expensive. And also, there are many people in the room that haven't adopted this type of software just yet either. And when you look at the cost, there are high upfront costs here. So you've got all the time it takes to set up this software. Obviously, this can vary dramatically based on the size of your business. We see it take anywhere from 1 to 2 weeks, all the way up to 6 months sometimes, or even more. But totally depends on the size of your business and how committed your team is to implementing it. I will get to that part in a little bit because that's very important. But we've estimated what we see here is average cost of getting this set up. But then once it's set up, you got to train your team, the rest of your team, on how to use it, who wasn't a part of the setup. So that's another cost. You got to train those folks. And then there's that opportunity cost. We were talking about that opportunity cost earlier. There's a cost of them spending the time in this implementation and training and not spending it elsewhere in your business. So you want to look at that too. And you want to look at that too because that time not spent also is applied with that internal rate of return. Because if they were investing it somewhere else, that's going to provide additional value. So there are high costs on that side. There are annual costs on the software side. A lot of these softwares aren't cheap. And so they will have a cost to your business each year. And then there's the labor cost of now operating them. So someone's got to go in and potentially contact customer support. So basically a lot of costs, but when you look at the value you get from it, because it makes you more scalable in the areas we talked about, makes you more profitable, the value is tremendous. So these aren't the two highest ROIs that we've looked at today in the presentation as a percentage. But what they are is it has the highest delta between investment and return. So in year 5, you've invested 75 grand to get $550,000. So that's a great long-term investment, but it can be painful, right? Like that payback period in that first year, you might not be profitable until 8 months into it. And that can be tough. But for any small business, you typically, and when I say small, I'm talking about $50 million in annual revenue or lower, you typically don't want to make an investment where the payback period is beyond 1 year. Unless, of course, you're raising capital and growth equity to do that. Otherwise, you want it to be under 1 year. And what's awesome is this software now has gotten to the point where it is under 1 year. So typically, these big ERPs of what they've been called, that's why some of the largest companies have only been able to afford them, is because they're just too expensive otherwise. Not just on the software cost, but on getting it fully implemented with your business. But now that you can do that in under a year, you can see how much sense it makes for the growth of your business. Cool, all right, last key area, intelligence. So obviously this is very important and software can help here. When I talk about intelligence, I'm talking about the intelligence you have on your business and your team gets as well. So with using really good software, you're able to make better decisions faster. And of course, I'm sure y'all guessed I'm gonna talk about artificial intelligence. AI is not some futuristic idea. It's probably already in a lot of the softwares you're using today. You just don't realize it. And the value is amazing. And so we'll focus on a couple specific areas on estimating. It can provide smarter pricing. So it can tell you, are you underbidding or overbidding based on this customer's past purchase history? Or are you underbidding or overbidding based on the area of town they live in? Or are you underbidding or overbidding based on a changing cost of the materials you have? We know that, the data all knows it, but we can then provide that information to the estimator to provide a much smarter price to the customer. On the opposite side, on the spending side, you have all that data, you know what you're spending on your equipment, and if you're using a system to log that, it can tell you, hey, you're spending way more on maintenance on this vehicle than it would cost to buy a new one. So it can allow you to get smarter purchases too. And a lot of folks, you understand your business. A lot of this, you're working in your head based on like normal intelligence. But by putting it and allowing AI to help, it can provide it to you faster, it can provide it to your team who may not have the same level of experience in the industry that you have, again, further making you more scalable. Also to the effective management and coaching of it. Sometimes it can be a lot easier, instead of hearing it from your boss, to have it from a system guiding you on how to better do your job, better purchase, better price, better provide a service to a customer. So the area of technology I'm going to focus on the intelligence side are business intelligence dashboards. So there are a lot of these softwares you can get off the shelf. Domo is one, Tableau is another. SingleOps, we integrate with a company called Periscope. And we've got these all over our office, and we absolutely love them. Just a big dashboard to give real-time data to your team. And we actually have one for each one of our teams. And some of our most top-performing customers doing the same for their sales, their crews, and their admin. With the sales, by putting that up front and center for the entire company to see, but also the sales team, and letting them compare close rates, or number of jobs sold, or number of revenue sold, that's going to foster healthy competition among that team. And so they're going to want to compete with one another, and that will improve their close rates and their ultimate sales. If you only have one sales guy, though, sales guys are pretty competitive folks. Like, you can just put that up there, and I swear it will improve his performance as well. Same thing with crews. And so you can use that to show for your crews what their production goals are. So you can set them, and you can track how close they are to meeting them, their labor budget, their revenue received. And so by making that data available, transparent and in real time, it will improve their performance. And then on the admin side, you can do the same thing. When it comes to receivables, when it comes to other things with your business, they're able to identify issues faster and react. So business intelligence dashboards are awesome. They've been a huge help to my team. And they've got great ROI. So, the purchase of the cost of a TV, super inexpensive. Put 3 of them in your office, install them. The software on some of these can get kind of expensive. Now, if you are using a good business management software solution, it can also come with it, so you don't have to pay for this separate, but you may have to pay for software outside of it. But it will improve sales team performance, and so, with a small increase in close rate, small improved production team performance, maybe they're able to get another job done per day or whatever, you'll see that additional value and that boost as well. You'll see the assumptions I got to get those numbers was a 5% increase in close rate, and a weekly productivity boost of just $500. So huge ROI, and also to pretty good numbers. So another thing that you might want to consider in investing in technology, but I just presented to you a bunch of different softwares and technologies, and I did ROI analysis on 5 of them. But what I would not recommend at all is for you to leave here and say, oh, I want to do all 5 of those tomorrow or this week, or even this year. Because even though they have positive value on your business, it can end up hurting if you try to do too many of them too quickly. So rule of thumb is you want to make 2 to 3 of these investments per year. Now the digital camera one, the ROI on that's great and it doesn't cost anything. Just go ahead and do that, take those photos. But when it comes to the other ones, you want to compare them. And that's why doing this ROI analysis, using that worksheet template, which I've got an Excel spreadsheet I'm happy to share with anyone after this call. Here I am using Excel spreadsheet when I just badmouthed them as stage 2 on the tech curve. But they certainly have their value elsewhere in the business. But you want to compare these ROIs, because this is going to help you prioritize and make a decision. I mean, based on this, yeah, totally do the, does it have a laser pointer? I don't want to mess around with the buttons and turn it off, but you can totally do, the digital media one. The next one would be the modern payments. And then you'll see the system of record one. So system of record, again, it's like not off the charts on the ROI, but if you remember, that's the percentage is one thing you want to measure, but that delta and what your business ultimately gets will as well. So, a tough upfront investment, but a great long-term investment. So measuring this stuff for your team really helps you prioritize which ones you want to do and when. So hopefully in this conversation, you guys have kind of thought about, areas in your business, whether it be the technology I presented today or just that specific area that you want to invest in to help multiply force. And so what you can do is just rank them, right? So the different parts of your business where they can really provide value, service, speed, scale, safety, intelligence, how much value getting, how much are you multiplying force in each one of them today? And then where does that put you on that tech curve we talked about earlier? So again, there's no huge science to this. I mean, if you're 0s across the board, you're in stage 1. And if you feel like you're 10s across the board, you're in stage 4. But just think about it. Areas where you can improve and where you can kind of grow and become one of the leading companies in this industry and what we see them doing. So how to get started, how to find out about this stuff? Well, you've already made the right step by coming to a conference like this, and I'm so happy with Lawn and Landscape for putting it on. But there's other great ways you can do it, industry publications, talking to leaders in the space. If you would like, I'd love to introduce you to some of the companies we work with who we would consider leaders with high growth, high profitability. You can kind of learn about some of the other tech investments they've made. And also reading industry publications, especially, shameless plug, the SingleOps blog. So check that out as well. And we kind of mentioned this a little bit earlier, but successfully implementing this tech with your team. I mean, that can be probably the most challenging thing when it comes to all the stuff we had talked about. And I could write a novel on great ways to do this because this is the most challenging part with our business, is getting this stuff implemented. The easiest way to do it is to create a culture for your business that embraces change. And then so they don't need convincing, and they're going to prevent ways to you to also improve the business. Now that is the hardest thing to do, and there's a lot of great literature out there on how to do it. But let's start simple. Let's start on something that you guys can do today. If you're looking at software, or any purchase within this conference, make sure that you get team buy-in. So they might not be here with you today, but involve them in the next step of the research and decision-making process. Get them on that demo that you might do with a software company. Just involve them in that because then they're gonna have ownership of the decision when it's ultimately made. And a lot of these companies are gonna ask someone on that team to be a project owner for the implementation. We do with SingleOps. So if that owner has buy-in, the implementation is always successful. So that's super important. Another way you can do it is measure success and failure. And I just gave you a great tool to do that as well. When you measure that ROI, you know what you expect your cost to be, upfront, opportunity, et cetera. You know what you expect the value to be. And you also know what your payback period is. So let's say it was 4 months. 4 months in, checkpoint. This investment, are we already making money on it based on that criteria? If not, do we think we can improve? Or do we say, let's not do it because maybe we chose the wrong customer? And that's also super, super important here, making sure you choose a customer that understands that implementation and has a great history of doing it. All right, so I think I finished just on time because I just saw the 2-minute. I cannot believe that happened. So that was my presentation. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you guys also enjoyed your lunch. I appreciate the engagement. I could tell you guys were engaged in the whole thing. So again, my name's Sean McCormick, CEO and founder of SingleOps. Happy to answer questions for you after the talk. So thanks.